Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I went to the heart doctor today. For those of you that don't remember, I had AFib. I had two cardio versions, and I had two ablations. The second ablation worked, and I have not had AFib in I think maybe 2 years now. So I went to the heart doctor just to get a checkup, and all is well, and that's a good thing. Nick Burafedo from Link2 put this out. They had a meetup in Orlando last week, I think. He said it was much fun. Jason Cousins, the CEO of GlintPay, showed up. He joined them in Orlando. Glint is doing big things, and we have exciting partnership synergy coming soon. So now Glint and Link2 are about to do some kind of partnership. That's Jason Cousins right there. How cool is that? So Glint, of course, is one of my sponsors. I tell you about all the time where I get gold. We'll put a link to I actually transfer it today. I think today or tomorrow I'll have my dollars show up in my Glint account to buy gold, my next batch of gold. I'm actively buying gold in my Glint account. The link to that'll be in the top of the description. And then also Nick Burafedo is with Link2, who's also one of my sponsors, and they still have some Ripple private equity that's at their mystery discount. There's a little bit left. I don't think there's a lot left, but I think there's a little bit left, and I'll put their link in the top of the description too. Breaking: DEI stablecoin has lost its peg to the dollar and is down 33% in the past 24 hours. Now, I thought this tweet was interesting from Jeannie. Settlement of the lawsuit will happen simultaneously with crypto regs. The world leaders will then decide for XRP to take reserve currency status as the USD no longer fulfills the needs of that role. ISO 20022 will enable to seamlessly switch. No room for Bitcoin in the new system. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. I think USDC is from Circle. Circle's backed by Goldman Sachs. USDC runs on the Stellar network. I believe that USD and the Stellar network are what's going to be the US digital dollar. And this is just what I think. And I think XRP is and always was going to be the bridge currency to the world, to all the private walled gardens of each country. I believe when you drop those walls, you're going to go through XRP as the world bridge currency. Digital bridge. Okay, now, this guy has some gall. I talked about Ben Bernanke for many years. This is the guy that was responsible for first of all, in the financial crisis, he's the one that helped engineer bailing out all of their friends and then turning around and printing money for the next however many years. He came up with all these names for it, quantitative easing and this and that, and it was all a bunch of baloney, which is what eventually got you to where we are now with all the inflation and all of the stuff. There were people screaming about it for years, but he has the gall to come now, and this is how it works when you're with CNBC and these government agencies. When you're a failure and you do things that are horribly wrong to do, you get rewarded for it. Instead of getting fired in government, they get promoted for screwing up, okay? Listen to this guy, and then I'll play you a little clip from him back in the day.
We also talked with Bernanke about the chances of a recession. Here's what he had to say.
The more the Fed has to tighten in order to get inflation down, the bigger the chance of a recession and the more severe it will be. How much the Fed has to tighten depends in turn on what happens to these factors they can't control, like the supply chains and the commodity prices. So that prediction requires you to make a prediction not only about the Fed's behavior, but about a lot of other things, the Ukraine war, et cetera. So it's a very hard thing, very uncertain thing to say. I guess that I still tend to believe that some of these forces pushing up inflation, like the supply chains, like the...
Now he's going to blame it on something else. Folks, these jokers printed money for years. This is an investor, David Einhorn, and he got a chance to, back in 2014, to address the QE problem with Ben Bernanke. Listen to what he says.
Well, I asked several things. Like, he started out by explaining that he was 100% sure that there's not going to be a hyperinflation. And not that I think that there's going to be a hyperinflation, but it's like, how do you get to 100% certainty? Of anything? Like, why can't you be 99% certain? And like, how do you manage that risk in the last 1%? And he says, well, you know, hyperinflations generally occur after wars, and we didn't have, that's not here, and there's no sign of inflation now, and Japan's done a lot more quantitative easing than we've done, and they don't have it. So, and if there is a big inflation, the Fed will know what to do. That was kind of the answer. And I didn't feel like that was it. Then it went to the next question. So then a few minutes later it came back and I got to ask him about the jelly donuts. And
all right, so you see the point is that these people, they can be monumentally wrong in what they do and nobody ever holds them accountable. It's shameful. Now, he also commented on Bitcoin. Let's see what he has to say here.
We couldn't have a conversation without talking about Bitcoin. Take a look at this. Bitcoin right now down a little under 30,000. And in Bernanke's new book, he writes about the potential of the digital dollar. So, of course, I asked him to share his point of view on cryptocurrency these days. This is what he had to say.
So Bitcoin and other currencies, cryptocurrencies whose value changes minute to minute, they've been successful as a speculative asset. And you're seeing the downside of that right now. But they were intended to be a substitute for fiat money. And I think in that respect, they have not succeeded. Because if Bitcoin were a substitute for fiat money, you could use Bitcoin to go buy your groceries. Nobody buys groceries with Bitcoin because it's too expensive and too inconvenient to do that. Moreover, the price of groceries, the price of celery, varies radically day to day in terms of Bitcoin. And so there's no stability either in the value of Bitcoin. And the main use of Bitcoin is mostly for underground economy activities and things that are illegal or illicit. So I don't think that Bitcoin is going to take over as an alternative form of money. It'll be around as long as people are believers and they want to speculate in this. But again, I don't think it's going to. And
you don't buy into the idea of it as being a store of value or some kind of version of digital gold?
Well, as I said, it's a speculative asset, but it's one that whose underlying use value, gold has underlying use value. You can use it to fill cavities. The underlying use value of Bitcoin is to do ransomware or something like that. So one of the other risks that Bitcoin has is that it could at some point be subject to a lot more regulation. And the anonymity is also at risk, I think, at some point. So, investors in Bitcoin should be aware of that.
Man, that guy knows something. These people all know each other. He's buddies with Janet Yellen and all of them. They know each other. Now, speaking of, here's the CFTC. Now, remember, as you listen to, this is the CFTC chairman. His name is Rostin Benham. Now, remember, what we're supposed to believe that there's an SEC CFTC turf war going on. So listen to what he says.
I mean, there is some disagreement between the two agencies about who should be in charge here, right?
Well, I wouldn't say there's disagreement. We're each trying to do what's best. And right now, and we saw this last week, a lot of people got hurt. A lot of value was lost in the market. And there really are no customer protections right now. We have a number of state level regulations and oversight, but in terms of market oversight, in terms of disclosures, we don't really have much right now as it relates to traditional financial markets. I've made this argument before. Our markets, whether it's the derivatives market or the securities markets, are the best in the world because of the regulations we have, the accountability and the enforcement behind the legal structure. And I think it's important as we continue to see this market scale and integrate itself into more traditional financial markets, we need to put forward a regulatory framework that will protect customers, make appropriate disclosures, and ultimately, for those who support the industry, I think support its growth and maturity over the next couple of years. So regardless of what the narrative might be about the differences between us and the SEC, I think we're both like-minded in the fact that we want to regulate this thoughtfully, protect customers, protect financial stability, and we'll figure out the details of what might constitute a security, what might constitute a commodity, and do what we've done in the past, whether it was after the financial crisis or going back many decades when we had to parse out security futures and commodity futures.
I mean,
okay, so that's one part. Now, this other one, this clip got apparently pissed Digital Perspectives off. Did you miss the disguised whales from the ETHgate fundraise for the ICO? Are you now endorsing ICOs as commodities? John Deaton, what are these regulators doing to our system? What are they doing to their own credibility? And then John Deaton was mad too from this clip. I'm so sick and tired of U.S. regulators and bureaucrats stating how difficult it is to do their jobs. It really isn't that difficult. The UK's FCA has tackled the issue. Japan's FCA has tackled the issue. ICOs equal SEC. Tokens traded for a decade that you can stake equals CFTC. Listen to this.
There's a lot of back and forth. There's a Senate bill that's made its way through that would leave the SEC in charge of a large portion of the oversight. I think it would move some of the regulation to the CFTC. Are you familiar with that bill, and what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of an age-old issue between the CFTC and the SEC. We have a great relationship historically. We continue to communicate and work together. We have a lot of common registrants, but within this space, in my view, it makes sense for commodities to be regulated by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission and securities to be regulated by the SEC. And within the sphere of digital assets and the coins, which make up thousands and thousands, there are naturally going to be some commodities and some securities. And in my view, it makes sense to sort of parse through the two and figure out where we can place each. And it's going to be difficult because from a legislative standpoint, again, given what I said earlier, given the novelty of some of these coins and the technology, we're going to have to figure out what would constitute a security under the traditional securities law and what would constitute more of a commodity so that we can regulate appropriately given the two different legal structures.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's all in the eye of the beholder. The SEC chair, Gary Gensler, has said he thinks most of those tokens are securities under the law right now. Does that sound about right to you?
Well, I could say for sure Bitcoin, which is the largest of the coins and has always been the largest regardless of the total market cap of the entire, digital asset market capitalization, is a commodity. So Ether as well, I've argued this before, my predecessors have as well, is a commodity. So there may be, in fact, hundreds, if not thousands of security coins, but there are plenty of commodity coins, and I think it makes sense, as we've done historically, to make sure that each agency has jurisdiction over commodities and security.
Well, he needs to tell Gary Gensler, because Gary will not tell us whether Ethereum is a security or not. And so this guy, the commodities guy, seems to think that it is a commodity. Gary won't tell us one way or another. And Bill Hinman said in his personal opinion, which was shared with like 10 or 15 SEC personnel and Jay Clayton, they said that it was a commodity. So we need Gary Gensler. He's the main guy at the SEC. I don't know why he can't tell us, or maybe I do know. I don't know. Hey, everybody should go and check this out. This is a great timeline. This is the master timeline. I don't know where he got his hands on this. Master timeline draft 5/11/2022. This is the timeline that goes through everything around the Ethereum free pass. If you haven't seen it, you need to. And also, Susan Friedman, she's with Ripple. She's the head of public policy. Looking forward to participating in this important discussion. The Digital Pound Foundation, an independent forum supporting the implementation of a well-designed digital pound, and Ripple is a part of it. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that my wife is trying to call me.